Chapter 9, verses 101 through 129. 101. Amongst people of your kind, fellow human beings, there are many hypocrites who believe in gods and tin gods and who claim that they are good believers, but truthfully, you are obdurate in your belief, assumption, and in your hypocrisy, and you follow the delusional lies and slanders, calumnies of your priests and other servants of gods and servants of tin gods who present to you false teachings as illusions which they fabulate, invent, or have learned through false prophets. And in your obdurateness of your false belief, assumptions, you regard yourselves to be better than others and set yourselves above people of your kind, fellow human beings. Although you do terrible and evil things, and therefore infringe against the laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life. 102. You do not admit your blame, and you mix one evil action with another even worse, and think that people of your kind, fellow human beings, shall take pity upon you if you fall into hardship and misery. 103. And you take alms gifts, despite you having great possessions or a good livelihood subsistence, so that you enrich yourselves thereby, and steal bread from the poor and needy, do unrightful and evil things, whilst at the same time passing yourselves off as good believers in your godliness, religion, or sub-godliness, sex cult, and openly, publicly, praying to your gods or tin gods in order to assuage your admonishment, conscience, and in order to appear brilliant amongst people of your kind, fellow human beings. And you fallaciously believe that you are thereby refined, purified, unblemished, and that you obtain the affection of your gods and tin gods, the servants of gods and servants of tin gods, as well as people of your kind, fellow human beings. 104. Know that all of this is only lies and deception, and that you do not achieve liberation, honesty, in yourselves if you are not truthfully remorseful, if you do not lose yourselves in thinking about your gods and tin gods, and you do not lend your ears to your servants of gods and servants of tin gods who lead you into the greatest erroneous assumption to which you could fall prey. 105. Act only in the name of the truth and liberate yourselves from your belief, assumptions, in gods and tin gods, in servants of gods and servants of tin gods, and from belief, assumptions, in those who raise themselves up amongst people of your kind, human beings, as gods or as their envoys or appointees, substitutes. Act, live out of yourselves in equitableness, fairness, righteousness, conscientiousness, as fair ones, responsible ones, so that you can look at your own good deeds which you learn through the real truth and through the teaching of the prophets who make you into ones who are knowing of the truth and reveal to you the way upon which you escape from all untruth and from the false teachings of the false prophets who lie that they are bringing you the truth, but are however lying to you, and spreading delusional teachings, fallacious teachings. Follow only the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, because it is only from it that you learn everything that is concealed and revealed, clarified, of the laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life, creation, and of its appearance, nature, as the true prophets teach you, and as they do themselves. 106. And truly, if you postpone your going on the way and believe, that you can also take it later, then this is a poor decision, because the more time passes until you take the way, the more difficult it will be for you, because you punish yourselves thereby in your inner nature by becoming ever more negligent and by moving yourselves farther and farther away from the way of the truth, as a result of which in the end you can no longer find any pity for yourselves and yourselves. 107. And it does not help you if you are unknowing of the truth and are hypocrites, and you build temples, houses of gods and houses of tin gods, for the spreading of the truth, whilst however practicing rites of gods, god cults, and rites of tin gods, tin god cults, therein against the truth, which are against the truthfully truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, and attempt to harm these, in order to further unknowledgeness of the truth, and to bring partedness amongst the rows of the ones who are knowing of the truth, as well as to create an ambuscade for those who are searching for the truth. And truly, even if you swear that you are only doing good deeds by building such temples, houses of gods and houses of tin gods, then the truth bears witness against it, contrary witness, and reveals that you are only liars, because in your temples, houses of gods and houses of tin gods, and in other houses that you build for your gods and tin gods, You do not teach the teaching of the truthfully laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life, creation, but rather your false teachings, of your false prophets and fabulated, invented gods and tin gods. 108. And you upright ones and like-minded ones concerning the truth, you truth knowers amongst people of your kind, human beings. It is said to you that you shall never stand in such temples, houses of gods and houses of tin gods, and that you shall not pray in them, because they are founded upon godlinesses, religions, and upon subgodlinesses, sex cults, and only serve to lead people of your kind, human beings, into great erroneous assumption and into the clutches of the servants of gods, and servants of tin gods and their fabulated, invented gods and tin gods, so that you become servile, dependent on them, and that you may be exploited in your goods and riches. And truly it is only of dignity to uphold your knowledge of the truth teaching outside such places rather than standing or sitting in such places and being lied to by the priests and worshippers of gods and worshippers of tin gods. Man, woman, and child, be of dignity in your knowledge of the truth teaching, as it is given through the true prophets who have worked it out from the truthfully laws and recommendations of the appearance, nature, of the fertilization of the life, creation. 109. Do not think that those who have fallen prey to a belief, assumptions, in the fear of gods and tin gods are better than the ones who are knowing of the truth, because truly godly religious belief is never founded on delight in the truth. Rather, the godly religious belief is like a house built on the edge of a rolling, undermined sandbank, and which can never have the firmness, safety, of a house built on rock with its foundation walls anchored in the rock. 110. And truly, the house, the truth which is built on rock, firmness, and is anchored in the foundations of the rock, does not contain any doubt in itself and cannot be torn into pieces. 111. Those who build their house, their belief, assumptions on undermined sand, they are fighting against the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power creation, and therefore they are not the same as the ones who are knowing of the truth, the fair ones, responsible ones, and righteous ones, conscientious ones. Rather, they are unfair ones, irresponsible ones, and unrighteous ones, conscienceless ones, who demand outrage, torture, punishment, and death for people of their kind whenever fallibilities, errors are committed. So they also do not hesitate to wage battles, wars, and to accurse people of your kind, human beings, if they have more goods and are richer, if they are of a different skin color, of a different attitude, mentality, and a different godliness, religion, belief. They do not follow the recommendation of the truth teaching that the promise of people of your kind, human beings, is the regulation, duty, of the love for the next one, and that all people shall also for themselves fulfill the promise of the love in themselves to the best extent. 112. And only if you fulfill the promise of the regulation, duty, and create truthfully love in yourselves, when you turn away from the lovelessness towards yourselves and towards people of your kind, fellow human beings, in remorse, and when you no longer pray to gods and tin gods, and you no longer bow down and cast yourselves down before them and before the servants of gods and servants of tin gods, but when you change yourselves to the real truth and demand direct, right in yourselves and forbid what is unright, so that you heed the dividing lines, boundaries that are given through the laws and recommendations of the primal power creation, and if you heed the joyful message of the truth teaching through the true prophets, only then are you on the way to the equitableness, fairness, and righteousness, conscientiousness, in order to become fair ones, responsible ones. 113. Truly, it is not appropriate either for you nor for the true prophets to supplicate, request forgiveness, or to grant forgiveness in any wise to believers in gods and tin gods, servants of gods and servants of tin gods, and even for the nearest family members, because the believers in gods and tin gods, or demons, only can do this for themselves if they turn away from their erroneous assumption of belief, assumptions, and clearly proclaim to themselves that they will henceforth only be connected to the truthfully truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power creation. 114. Therefore, no father and no mother can supplicate forgiveness for their children because of their belief, assumptions in gods or tin gods, just as the children cannot do this either for their parents And the man cannot do it for a woman or a woman for a man, because all people of your kind, human being, must liberate themselves from their belief assumptions in gods or tin gods through their own true discernment, intellect, and through their own insight, rationality, in order to be able to forgive themselves. 115. Truly, it is not in the sense of the truth and of the laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life, creation, to allow people of your kind, human beings, to go into confusion. Rather, the sense is given that you are guided, led by them. But consider, all amongst you must yourselves take efforts to search for, recognize, see, and follow the creational laws and recommendations in the appearance, nature, of the fertilization of the life, creation, through the teaching of the true prophets. Be certain, knowing that you must guide yourselves, because you are your own guardians, as well as being the guardians of people of your kind, next ones, so that it may go well with all of you. 116. To you is given the kingdom of earth, as well as the kingdom of the firmaments, universe, and of earth's worlds, planets, so that you may protect everything well and make it a place of happiness, paradise, in its entirely. But you have not been given the might of death, so you shall not decide over it, but give death its due when it calls on you of its own accord. Do not bring about death unrightfully by killing, murdering, people of your kind, human beings, or yourselves. Rather, you shall be at all times a friend and helper to life. To you is merely given the might to create life within the dividing lines, boundaries, of the laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life, creation, therefore between man and woman, and, in the case of other creatures, life forms, between the male and female by raising, breeding, and modifying, crossing, as well as through replication, gene manipulation, which you may also use with regard to fruits and vegetables, and all things through which you facilitate much of your existence, life. 117. Therefore, you are taught through the teaching of the prophets that you may turn yourselves to everything that is knowingly, recognizably, given to you through the truth of the laws and recommendations of the appearance, nature, of the fertilization of the life, creation, as well as to everything that is unknown, unrecognizable, and concealed to you, but which you can, however, fathom and make useful for yourselves. Therefore, open your ears to the teaching of the prophets, because it is through them that many concealed things of the laws and recommendations of the primal power, creation, are proclaimed, announced to you, so that you may be aware of, feel, the secrets that are within them, disclose them, and be progressive. 118. And beware of breeding too many of people of your kind, human beings, so that the breadth of the earth does not become too narrow for you, and there is no longer any refuge for you on it. Therefore do not turn in pity to those who want to create descendants if there are too many of all the people of your kind, humankind. Otherwise a cataclysm, catastrophe, is unavoidable when the appearance, nature, turns against you, and you can no longer do anything about it. Truly, the number of all people of your kind, humankind, is restricted for your world, but as you exceed the number, then calamities of all kinds sweep over you, which you can no longer control. 119. All who are fruitful and bear true discernment, rationality, and insight, intellect, consider that you shall show esteem and honor, respect, to the appearance, nature, of your world, and shall keep it in health and benevolence, so that your world does not suffer its downfall, is not destroyed through you. 120. It is not seemly for you, as inhabitants of earth, that you commit misdemeanors against it and destroy it in itself and in its appearance, nature, through your might and undiscernment, irrationality. But if you do this, then you make yourselves enemies of your world, which is your home, from which will spring misery, hardship, and affliction for you, which must be ascribed to you as a disparaging, despicable work. And truly your reward for this is terrible cataclysms, catastrophes, with enormous destruction and wholesale, mass, deaths of people of your kind, human beings. 121. And if you subject your world to an ordeal, torture, then you cannot give any amount, some money, whether great or small, to ward off the resulting calamity, because all the cataclysms, catastrophes, will be so great that you will no longer be able to resolve them. Therefore the blame for it must be laid at your door, for which you will receive your reward of terrible things, heaped upon terrible things, and calamity upon calamity. 122. And if the time comes when you subject your world to an ordeal, torture, Then many will have to leave their homes and lose their goods and chattels, and great throngs will flee from high waters and great storms, and much misery, hardship, affliction, and many deaths will be rampant. And if you do not open your ears to the admonishments, warnings, of the true prophets, who are adept in many things of the time to come, future, and in the creational laws and recommendations of the appearance, nature, then great calamity and terrible things will come over you. Therefore may you beware of the threatening terrible things and calamity, and heed the admonishing words, warnings, of the prophets. 123 Truly, those of you who think that you must fight against the admonishments, warnings, of the prophets and blame them of lying, it will go terribly with you, because you will find yourselves in the harshness of calamity, as is told to you by the prophets. 124 No matter how many times you are told the truth, you cast it into the wind, and you do not allow your paucity of knowledge and your paucity of wisdom to be strengthened through the teaching of the prophets, because you believe yourselves to be thinking, prudent, and full of true discernment, rationality, and insight, intellect, and take delight in this, whereby you suffer harm time and time again, wage battles, wars, and spread death, affliction, misery, and destruction. 125 And consider if you subject the appearance, nature, of your world to an ordeal, torture, then you and your animals and many other creatures will also fall victim to new illnesses and scourges, plagues, and one illness and scourge, plague, will usher in the next one, because it is through your own blame that you allow one terrible thing and calamity to follow on the heels of the next one, just as when you have dirt and add further dirt, and it becomes rife. 126 Beware of this, and see that the terrible things and calamity do not befall you. Otherwise you will be harshly afflicted if you do not regret your false actions, and you do not allow yourselves to be admonished. 127 And truly, even since the time before you, it has been the case that you do not allow yourselves to be admonished, and you merely look at one another and laugh about the admonishments, warnings of the prophets, just as you also turn away from them, because you do not want to understand. 128 Your awakening, however, will be a painful one if you do not listen to the admonishments, warnings, and to the advices of the true prophets, but only to the falsehoods, deviousness, of the false prophets and the lies and slanders, calumny, of the hypocrites who present themselves as servants of gods and servants of tin gods. And if you do fall into calamity, then do not wait for kindheartedness and benevolence, humanity, from your gods and tin gods or your demons, because just as they are, only powerless hazy pictures, fantasies, they do not have any power either to bring you help no matter how arduously you make entreaties to them, pray and kneel down before them. 129 However, if you turn yourselves away from your wrongdoing, lend your ears to the true prophets and give enough consideration to the laws and recommendations of the fertilization of the life, creation, and trust in the mightiness of its guidelines, guiding principles, and its power, then it will go well with you, and you will not be struck by the terrible things and the calamities about which you have been admonished, warned.